everyone, welcome to Safe Space. My name is Jared.
And my name is Buse.
We're sisters.
Yep. And we will be talking about a lot of different experiences that we have, a variety of topics that I guess on a daily basis a lot of people struggle with. And this will be called our home series. That's why we're on our couch right now.
Yeah,
so we want to
make
we want to make it as authentic as possible. So, if you have any topics that you want us to discuss, please comment them below, and we'll also have a list of topics that we will introduce to the videos that we will create. And let's get started.
Yep.
Okay. All right, so there's this one topic that I wanted to discuss, and I wrote it down. So it's about letting go of the attachment to labels. And I guess I'll explain what that means for me. So I guess I feel like nowadays people are so attached to trying to label everything, not just relationships, but also like when they have an issue, like everybody wants to label how they feel, label like the issues, label everything, like their relationship. Like we are always trying to find these labels and like name things, or we're always trying to like label it so we can fix it, right? Like that's how I feel. That's what I was trying to say in terms of letting go of attachment to labels. Like I don't like labeling anything.
I know what you mean. I think what you're trying to say is like sometimes instead of like when we have a problem, it could be anything. You mean like instead of being like, oh, I'm sad because of this, I'm sad because of that, like we have to kind of let ourselves feel rather than putting a label on what our issue is and trying to fix it right then and there, because sometimes like you can't just fix it with like oh well I just have to do this better. Sometimes you just have to like sit down and like be like, I'm sad, and that's okay, and just like feel like your emotions and whatever it may be. Right?
I think that's what I was trying to explain. Like I just feel like in general with everything, that's like the issue where everybody wants to fix everything, but sometimes things don't need fixing. They just need, like
you just need time,
or even just validation from yourself or from other people. Like sometimes, like what you were saying, we were talking about this earlier. Like, so what you were saying before, sometimes like you want to talk to someone, you want to tell them something, right? But then it escalates into something that's not what it was before. And I feel like it's almost like this person or even you might do this, or like anyone can do it. They escalate it to something because they want to like understand the situation right then and there and like label it so they can try to fix it. But it's like sometimes you don't need that fixing in that moment. You just want to express yourself. We want that validation for yourself. And I feel like emotions are already very complex. Like sometimes we don't even know how we feel, let alone explain it to someone else. But like other people may feel a different way, and they may not be able to express it to you either. And I feel like that's what creates issues with a lot of relationships. I'm talking about not just partnership, but like relationship with your family, siblings, co-workers, like anyone.
Well, yeah, this kind of is like touching up on the topic that we were talking about before, and if you want, like we can kind of talk about that. I don't know what you have there, but
no, you can talk about it.
Okay. So, going off of like what you were saying, basically, like sometimes, well, earlier we were talking and I was basically just telling her how sometimes I find myself in this place, like I feel like my whole life I've like repressed a lot of like my emotions, where like, because I always feel like I feel like I have to be okay, like in a way of like, I don't know how to explain it, but like I just feel like I have to be like in a good mental state like all the time. Like I don't really have that choice of being sad. So I was just saying how like, because I've learned, or like it's become a habit to repress all my emotions, sometimes now, like as I've grown up, I've realized that when something is wrong with me and I'm feeling upset or some sort of something, I have a hard time even figuring out what it is. And like people will ask me like, "Oh, you look sad. Like what's wrong or what's bothering you?" And I really don't have the answer to that because I don't know what's bothering me. I can't like pinpoint it, but like what I try to do is just like acknowledge that I'm upset and be like, I'm upset. I'm going to let myself feel sad. Maybe I don't know necessarily why, but it's okay. Like it's okay for me not to know sometimes. I don't have to like figure it out, and that's again going back to like you saying like we don't have to like know what it is or put a label on what it is and just try to fix it in that moment. Like half the time like I don't even think I know why I'm upset, like, or sometimes I'm just in a mood, like sometimes you just get sad. Honestly, for no reason.
I feel like to add on to everything that you said, I feel like there's so many factors why you might feel the way you do. And there's no one reason sometimes. There's multiple reasons, Like, you may actually be tired. Like, how sometimes people are like, oh, I'm just tired. That might sometimes be an excuse, but sometimes that might be the reason why you're upset or cranky or whatever. Yeah. Like it's I feel like it comes down to, like, simplifying everything, but also, like, not trying to pinpoint exactly one reason as to why you feel the way you do. Because I feel like it could literally just be that you woke up feeling that way. Maybe you had a dream that you don't even remember that like left you feeling that way.
Yeah.
And there's
that's why they say like you woke up on the wrong side of the bed. Like
yeah, exactly. I feel like that actually makes sense. Like I've
never thought about that.
There's like different sayings for different things, but if you think about them, like
that makes sense.
Yeah, like you break it down, sometimes that's exactly what it is. And
we just had a little enlightening moment there.
Yeah, and it's like just thinking about everything that you just said, it's like I feel like sometimes I don't even want to label things that I feel. Like if I feel that way that in that moment, I just let myself feel, like you said. I think that's like the biggest thing. And like when you can't pinpoint that feeling, I feel like you just have to give yourself time. Like you just have to feel that feeling.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to like take shortcuts and like not go through that feeling, like you're trying to repress it.
You become avoidant at some point.
And exactly, that becomes a big issue. And you just have to, like, I know people say like there's no shortcuts, you just have to go through it, right? But I think it is important to go through whatever you're feeling, because that, one, is making you stronger, and two, you're learning something new about yourself. You're learning a side of you that you never really knew was there. Like you're learning like, oh, like this thing makes me upset, and then you'll learn like why that makes you upset if you break it down.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, because I feel like I was saying, like I don't know most of the time, but in the past I actually like I wasn't doing that. Like when I was upset, like instead of letting myself like be upset, I would always just like try to ignore it. Like try to be like, why am I upset? Like there's literally no reason for me to be upset, like whatever. And I would like ignore it, but now I like find myself more like trying to be more in tune with like my emotions, in the sense of like when I'm sad, I acknowledge that I'm sad, and I'm starting to like realize things that like I never realized that were wrong with me, or like things that might be like trauma, or like things that have upset me, and I never brought attention to them in myself, and I think it's also just because like I'm like at that age where I am like growing up, like I'm starting to like realize and put more importance into things that I should be putting importance into. Yeah. Because like how like they're always like, when you're like younger, your main like priority in those ages is like your friends and your friend group. But like as you grow, one of the things that you learn, like, because like I'm graduating high school, I just graduated, so I'll be starting college, but
Yeah.
like you're starting to realize that like you have to put priority into yourself, your own mental health, like your, you know, stuff like that. And even though I feel like in the past, like I knew those things were important, but like I didn't really care. Like I was just like, nah, like whatever. I didn't care. But like now I'm like, I have to treat, like, you know how they say like you have to treat yourself like somebody you love.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes. I actually
And I think
love
that's
that.
like literally the perfect way to put it, because like if you were upset, right? I wouldn't like be like, whatever, doesn't matter, like you'll get over it. Like, you know? Like I can't do that. If you're upset, I'm gonna be like, what's wrong?
Like,
do you
wanna
need a
make-
hug? Like, do you need something? Like sometimes you don't need to talk. Sometimes you just need,
And
you know?
And one topic that we were just talking about, you just reminded me by saying that, is like I feel like when you're younger, or even as you get older, if you've been neglected in any way, whether that's emotionally, like physically, whatever, I feel like you get older, you realize you neglect yourself as well. Like in those hard times, all you need is actually time to yourself. You need more attention that you need to give to yourself, but you neglect yourself in those times because like you have been neglected in the past, I guess.
Sorry, I'm just putting on Do Not Disturb.
Yeah. And I feel like I've noticed that within myself, in the times where I'm like not feeling well, I try to also, what we were talking about before, it's like high functioning anxiety or depression, that's like I push myself. I push to do better, and I push to be better in whatever I'm doing, but
in
it's
a way
like,
where you're just like ignoring.
yeah, I'm ignoring that I need to take time
Unhealthy.
to rest and heal and relax. But in that moment, I'm like, no, I need to keep going. But that's a way of like neglecting myself, because that way I'm, you know, I don't know how to explain it, but I am getting things done, but I'm not meeting my own needs. You know, it almost feels unsatisfactory. Like you got the job done, but you didn't do well enough. Like there's always that underlying like feeling where you're not doing just well enough, so you're trying harder and harder, and each time and you feel like you can't get to where you want to go.
Yeah.
And it builds up, and then you have this breakdown in the end.
I feel like I've
know?
always been like that. Like remember like when we were younger, there were times where like you guys like saw me like having like panic attacks. Like remember
Yes.
that one time at our old house, like when something happened with our older sister, and I just like started like breaking down, and it wasn't something huge. Like she got like mad at me, so she was yelling at me. I just started like breaking down and crying. And I think it's because like for a very long time, like I always like push aside things. I always like am like, oh no, I'm fine.
Yes.
I'm always like trying to be better, trying to whatever, and then I just have like that big meltdown. And I still feel like I am like that sometimes, but I'm learning.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I only started to notice that within myself as well, like in the past 2 years, I would say, because like we were also mentioning before, like I was praised for being so good growing up, that I feel like I can't make mistakes, and when I do make mistakes, when I do have a breakdown, it's like, what's wrong with you? Like it's almost like it's not, the people don't ask me like what's going on, what's making you feel that way, but it's almost like what's wrong, like as if like it's something
As if
that
you shouldn't be upset. As
Right.
if there's
Yeah.
like it's, I get what you're saying. Like I feel like I didn't like fully understand earlier, but like now I get it a little bit more, because you're kind of saying like, you know, because like we were like forced to almost mature, you know, earlier on than most people. Like we were praised for being mature, so that became like our normal,
right.
right? Like you doing exceedingly well became normal. So when you were anything under that level, it was like, what's wrong? Why are you upset? As if you shouldn't be upset, as if that's not normal. Like I still find myself like with certain people, I still find myself like that. Like with like Aunt, like when I'm upset, she's like, what's wrong? Like trying to fix it right then and there. And like,
Right.
that's also another reason why I always feel like I can't be upset. Like, I feel like I always have to be happy. Like, I don't feel like there's another option, you know?
And I recently, I could say the same thing, like with certain people in my life, especially like certain family members. I do feel that way as well. Like, I think with Dad, it's gotten better over time for me, like from my experience with him. Like, I think recently, one of the most recent times where I went to him where I was upset, he didn't like say like what's wrong. He didn't try to fix the issue. He just listened. I was like, Dad, like right now I need a hug, or I need just someone to tell me that they're supporting me.
Yeah.
And I think what I've realized is like, sometimes when you don't even know what you feel, it's hard for people to like be supportive because you don't know what you're going to them for. Like in that moment, I wanted validation and I needed support for how I was feeling.
Yeah.
And he did that because I voiced that to him, you know? But if I'm just breaking down and crying and yelling at people, which has happened, like people are not gonna know, like no matter who it is, even if it's your family or friends or really your loved ones that are really close to you, no one's gonna know what you need until you can pinpoint exactly what you need.
Well, I feel like that's the issue.
For them to help you.
Like, that's the issue with most relationships is like, and like sometimes it's unconscious too. Like, you're not aware that this is something that you should be doing. But like, I feel like we all, even the people who are most aware, like we all have our moments where like somebody will do something to hurt our feelings, or we'll get upset with them or something, and we get upset and yell at them and be like, you did this wrong or you did that wrong.
Right.
But we also don't take the time to be like, listen, you did this and it hurt my feelings and this is what I need. I mean, of course there are people who do that and it doesn't work out, but then, you know, then the ball has left your court. It's not like your fault anymore because you've done that. But I feel like I'm saying that because I personally have realized that in recent times, and I've seen it amongst my friends or amongst like other relationships that are close to me, that somebody will get upset with someone and be mad at that person and whatever, and then kind of just have that expectation for them to know what's wrong and for them to like be like, hey, like, oh, like expect them to, I guess, like either apologize or acknowledge that something happened. But like sometimes we have other things on our mind. Like you say that all the time. Like sometimes we have so much going on that like maybe we don't think about what happened with that specific person or like realize that it was actually something that hurt them. So it's like you don't know. Like that's why you always need to be openly communicate with every relationship, because that, like they always say, like it's like cliche, but like, oh, communication is key. Like it's the truth, because how do you expect to either mend or grow in a relationship if you're not voicing the things that can be done better? Right. You know?
And so I think I definitely agree with that. And there are times where like you should be praising the person for doing something great for you or doing something thoughtful.
Of course.
And then there are times where you also shouldn't hold yourself back from voicing what that person can do for you so that you can feel better in the relationship. But also that goes both ways. When you're voicing that need, you also have to ask them, like, what do you need from me? And then try to like be there for them and show up in ways that they need from you. And I think that's where people struggle most, because in like it's nice to talk about it when everything's calm, but when things happen and like things get tough, when people are breaking down, that's when it's hard for you to, show up and be there for their needs, and they can do the same for you. That's when it gets tough. Like in calm times, like when it's calm, everything's fine, everything's okay. But when things get tough is when people mostly struggle, I feel like.
Yeah. Well, what I was gonna say about like what you were saying at the beginning was like, you need to sorry, blank. But you were saying like how you should be showing that you're like grateful at times.
It goes both ways.
No, this is it. Like you were
okay.
saying how you have to be grateful, but you also have to be like in certain moments you have to be able to tell them where they can do better.
Right.
But like I was gonna say, like what I tend to do is usually I'll do both.
Mm-hmm.
So like if I'm going to somebody with an issue, I'll be like, listen, like, you know, I'm aware that you did this, and I'm grateful. I appreciate this.
Yeah.
But I also want to bring up this, like saying like, okay, like, you know, this is great, and I really appreciate it. But I think that when you did this, it hurt my feelings, and I would appreciate it if you didn't do that any longer.
Right.
And then after I say that, I'll be like, you know, and if you feel like that with me in any kind of way, not even in this situation, but moving forward, like I want you to express that to me. I want you to tell me where I'm wrong, because if you're not telling me, then I might not be aware of it.
Right.
You know?
And I think that like what you said is exactly like something that I like have recently. I know we were talking about labels before, but it's almost like setting a boundary. Like you're telling them, I'd appreciate if you didn't do this because it makes me feel this way. You know, and then it's up to them at that point to show up in the way that you need. And it's the same thing, like you're letting them set boundaries with you by offering that opportunity to them. Like saying, hey, I'd appreciate if you didn't do this, but if you also have a boundary that you think that I have crossed before, have made you feel a certain way, you tell me as well.
And it's never too late either. Like, just because maybe, like, you know, we're talking about current things, like, we're talking about something that might have happened right now, but, like, I've had situations where something, like, even right now, like, literally something I realized today is, I had this drama between my friend groups, and all of the blame kind of got placed on one person, and I was like kind of in the center of it. And one of my friends, like, she apologized, and we had a couple like back and forth with her. You know, she's a great person. I love her. And today we were talking earlier, and I realized that there were things that I could have done better, and it's been months since that event happened. But I'm realizing now, like, there are things that I could have done better, and like I owed it to her because we were such close friends. I owed it to her to do certain things that I didn't do at the time. And now that I'm realizing it, even though months have passed, I reached out to her and I was like, hey, like, this week, like, we're getting together, and I plan on, like, apologizing to her because, you know, I didn't at the time. And I think that maybe even though, you know, our relationship is good now, maybe that might be something that still bothers her till this day, but she doesn't voice it to me. And just because it's been months doesn't mean that, you know, I can't reach out to her and be like, hey, listen, you know, it's taken me a while to realize, but I know that, like, I should have done this better, and I'm sorry. You know, and that's it. It's just to show them that, like, you're working towards that, like, towards building and getting stronger, you know? Doesn't always have to be, like...
Yeah. And I was actually gonna say something, but I forgot. Because I was listening so
I know you tend to do that.
Intensely, yeah. And in terms of, like, exactly, like, I guess to extend that on what you just said, going back to that moment that everything happened, even if it was months ago, and validating how that person might have felt, even though you didn't know how they felt at the time, validating or saying that, like, I'm sorry if you... I'm sure, like, it was an upsetting situation because I know how it went down.
For both of us, yeah.
Right, so, and I think people, like, have this idea where when you validate someone's feelings, it means you're wrong. but it doesn't. Like, nobody, like, for example, let's say, this doesn't happen between us, but I feel like we both experienced it with other people. Like, we always validate each other, but I feel like we have this issue with others. So when someone, let's say you went to someone, you were upset that they did something or they said something, you were upset about it, and you wanted to voice it to them, and you told them, and they were like, no, like, I didn't do that. Like, you know, like, that happens a lot with a lot of people. I'm sure other people experience that as well.
Or, you know, sometimes people, like, in that response, they'll be like, yeah, well, you did this. Yeah. Like, you know, like, that's, like, a more defensive thing. Like, there's...
Exactly. That's, it's almost like they're kind of projecting onto you, like, how they were
like, they don't want to accept...
Right,
that they might have messed up too.
Right, and it's like they also had things that hurt them that you did, but they didn't voice it at the time, and they never voiced it until you brought it up. So now it becomes like a defensive situation. I don't know how to explain it, but it becomes like this blame game where like you did this.
I hope they know what you mean.
Yeah, where it becomes like a blame game. It doesn't really help anybody, really. And that's what I was trying to say in terms of validating feelings. Like, if you came to me and you told me, hey, you did this and it made me feel upset, I'm not going to be like, oh, you did this. No, I'll be like, I'm sorry, like, I didn't want you to feel like that, and that was not my intention. Yeah. You know, and that me validating you in that moment and apologizing to you doesn't mean that I was wrong. You know, like, people have that idea that when they validate someone that they're wrong, but that's not the case.
Oh yeah. Okay. Sorry. I was literally zoned out before when you first like said that. That's why I made that face. That's why I was like, well,
yeah.
You know, but now I get what you mean. Like as if like when you apologize, it's like you're the one who's in the wrong. But that's not how it is.
Exactly.
You know, like just because you're apologizing doesn't mean that you're the only person who did wrong or you're even in the wrong. It just means that like you are accepting that even if you don't think necessarily what you did was wrong, you're accepting that like it might have hurt the other person. Like everybody is different. Everybody has different sensitivity levels. Like maybe some people take it a little bit more seriously than others, you know? That's why every relationship is different, like you say, because every person is different. So like, you know, me and you joke around all the time. Yeah. And like, we don't ever take anything personally, and we can be harsh with each other, like, you know. But like, if I go to somebody else, you know, like that's exactly, so so this is my older sister, and we have one more sister who's older than both of us. But like, we all have very different relationships and dynamics. So what I'm like explaining now is like, my relationship with you is so completely different because you know, she's a completely different person. So my relationship with you is different, and my relationship with her is different, and we always talk about that.
So thank you for listening to us, guys, and we will either talk more on this topic next time or on another topic. So if you want us to talk about different things, you can comment them down below. Yep. And we'll find other topics to talk about for sure on our own as well.
And make sure you stay for the bloopers.
Yep. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Unprofessional, professional.
Cut.
Snap.
But like, okay. I don't know how to position myself, but I did the exit like this, so I'll do the exit like this as well.
Here, let me get in my comfortable.
Hi everyone, welcome to Safe Space.
Okay, wait, you have to start over. I made a weird face.
Ready? Yep.
Hi everyone, welcome to Safe Space. What? Yeah. I thought that's what you wanted me to say.
I have to pee.
What?
I have to pee, but you made me laugh, so
I thought you were gonna be like, my name is Luce.
No, you're gonna say my name is Jaren first.
Oh god. Okay.
Alright, wait.